Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome back to Pink Yoga.
Yay.
Woo. Yes. So, first and foremost, as you all know, if you're new to the channel, if you don't know, I am Dev. And who else do I have here?
I am Nick at Night.
That's right. Now, guys, usually it's myself and Nick. Usually it's myself, Nick, and Gigi Michelle. Gigi Michelle could not be here today. She has a very busy life making sure the life on Mars is being taken care of.
Yes.
She's up there helping all the aliens and all the life forms up there, getting themselves together, making sure their hair is on fleek, making sure their edges are being put in place. And it's all working out fine. So she will not be here for today's episode. But, we do have someone here who has been a part of Pink Yoga for a very long time, but is just now getting onto the podcast. And I'm going to give her the floor to let her introduce herself. Come on out.
Hola, mi amigas.
Yeah.
I am Miss Pettywop Porsche, aka Porsche for short, if you don't feel like going through that long title. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about mental health. And
Yes.
to be more exact, we're going to be talking about mental health in the Black community in contrast to being a millennial,
Yes.
which is a huge thing. And fellas, I want to start off the conversation by saying, what does friendship mean to you? Are you willing to go above and beyond for a friend to help them with their mental health?
Absolutely. For me, I find myself, because I have friends on various different spectrums, on various different places in their lives and whatnot. I have some friends who are a lot stronger, who can, handle the pressures of life and whatnot. And then I have other friends where, not that they're not strong people, but a lot of time the pressures of life get to them a lot easier. So for me, I tend to stay on them a lot more, make sure they're doing good, check up on them more. If it means taking them out, then so be it.
Right.
But I definitely want to make sure that all of my friends are doing good, and having that open door policy so that if they ever feel like they need to come and talk to me on anything, they're more than welcome to, whether it's having a conversation, getting advice, or just venting.
That's great. What about you, Nick?
I tend to do the same thing, and I realize that a lot of my friends, they'll go through it, but with them, they don't express themselves. They keep a lot of their pain inside of them.
Okay.
And they're not going to openly express how they feel, so they internalize it.
And is this safe to say that a majority of your friends are African American?
Yes.
Okay.
Or some of them are just okay with how they're living.
Okay.
I see, what their parents may do, and it may not be right, but as long as the other person is okay, then it's like, okay, well, I can't really say too much because I don't want to overstep my boundaries in talking about your life.
Right.
However, if you do come to me and say, hey, something is going wrong with me, or something, I don't like the way something is going on, then I will definitely take you in my arms.
That's great. And that kind of plays into the topic where, a lot of African American youths, they feel like they can't go home and talk about mental illness or struggles or things that they're going through because of cultural concerns. And that plays into everything because a lot of young African Americans, me included, our mental stability, our home is with our friends, other millennials.
Yes.
Even though we might not have the experience in life or, the troubles that older generation has been through, we rely on each other heavily.
Now, when you say that now, because I started thinking about this while you were saying that, do you think that a lot of gang-related issues stems from that because it's the whole thing of them being able to lean on each other, and this whole idea that, if they do these things to be a part of this group, that they'll be okay?
Well, I feel like gang-related things historically has been people looking for family, not in the sense of needing mental health or looking for positive well, they do look for positive reinforcements in like some type of family figure also. So I guess what you mean, it can apply. It can apply.
Because when I look at it, it's almost like everyone wants that place where they feel like they're being understood. And a lot of times, I think just now in our society, we're getting to a point now where we're identifying exactly what all mental health is and the different facets of it.
Right.
And for the most part, a lot of people may have some issues mentally, but aren't even aware of it.
That is true.
That
is true.
The worst doesn't come out of you until you are put in that position.
Yeah.
So how do you guys feel when you have to talk about, I know some people in the room personally have dealt with depression or other mental issues. How do you feel when you have to talk to your parent about this or someone older in your family? Like, how does that make you feel? How do you think their generation dealing with depression and other issues contrasts to our generation?
Well, it depends on who you ask, because depending on if the parents were openly concerned about how their child felt or how they lived life, then yes, some past generation people may feel, okay, yes, mental health is an important thing. But if you have parents, and this is most parents, if you have parents who say, oh yeah, this is not my child doesn't have this, my child doesn't have that, well, how would you know? You want your child to be this gift from God that doesn't have any imperfections, but yourself, you have imperfections. So how are you going to hold your child to a higher standard?
Okay.
Yeah. For me, when it comes to the initial question of whether I could talk to my family about it, I think now I can talk to my mother about it, because I'm an adult who can form his own opinions, I've gotten to a point now where, for the most part, I understand who I am as a human being. But the topic of conversation wasn't necessarily at the forefront when I was much younger, because I feel like my mother, in some way, shape, or form, didn't necessarily feel like that was a conversation that I will fully be able to go in depth about, Yeah. And I think that for a lot of parents, it's one of those things where it's like they don't necessarily want to. It's not that they don't want to have that conversation with their children, but I feel like when it comes to mental health, it's this thing of, because this is how my mom was. She said, "Don't claim something unless you know exactly what you're talking about." Don't claim to be depressed if that's not exactly what you're going through. Don't claim to be, to have certain things if you don't understand what you're talking about,
It's not something you just want to,
throw around.
Glorify.
Yeah, because depression is not just a feeling. It's not just a feeling of sadness. It's not just I lost this job. It's so much more. It's so much more than that.
Well, for me personally, I have manic depression and I also have borderline bipolar syndrome. And that's a lot, for me to deal with, especially since I've been dealing with these emotions and these mood swings and all of these things my entire life. I know for me personally, when I think I might have been 11 years old. I went to my mother, bless her soul, and told her that I was depressed. And I told her, I don't feel normal. I don't feel right. I'm never happy. I'm never okay. I told her this as an 11-year-old. And she told me, girl, you don't even know what depression is. Go take your butt down and you go watch TV or play your video game.
Wow.
It was dismissed because, for me, my experience was, no matter what, even if there's no man around, you have to be strong.
Right.
You're a black woman. You have no choice but to be strong.
Right.
And in my experience, a lot of black men were always given that escape where they were able to get away with more or do more, or even have a mental breakdown. And it'd be like, well, he's just been so depressed and he's just been going through so much. But for me, it was never seen that way. It was never accepted as that. Like, I could never just be going through something, or my mental health is at stake for whatever reason. Sometimes no reason. Sometimes I'm anxious in a room full of people and I can't understand why, and I don't know why I can't get out of bed. I don't know why I can't stop crying. I don't know why I'm angry at everything. I don't know why I feel like I don't have friends and no one loves me. But that's just a chemical imbalance, because that's what depression is.
Yes.
It's literally a chemical imbalance in the brain, and people don't understand that. So for me, my family never understood it, because even though a lot of people in my family have been through so much and suffer from this, like, depression, they dealt with it in other ways, which necessarily didn't work for me.
Now, I think you brought up a really interesting point when you were talking not too long ago about how, you know, you yourself, you had to be the strong Black woman, you know, in the face of, you know, your mental your mental issues that you had going on. Right. Whereas a lot of the men around you they were much more catered to. Yes. Which is really interesting, because because I know, from my perspective, that's not the norm. Like, usually you hear that, you know, women are much more catered to, in the sense of, you know, when it comes to them being able to express their feelings, or, you know, being less guarded about their emotions, whereas
men are the ones that have to hide it.
Yeah, we have to hide it more. So I found it really interesting that wasn't the dynamic for you growing up.
See, I don't necessarily believe it's the expression of feelings, but for example, when a man chooses to drink to deal with his emotions, and people, he's just depressed. It's okay that he's depressed. It's okay that he's drinking to deal with this depression. But
I see what you're saying.
If I use something to deal with my depression, that might not be as positive or something. I don't get that reach for help. Like, oh, maybe you should talk to someone, or maybe you should see this, or maybe you should try this. It's different in that sense. Not like a man being able to be emotional.
Right.
I'm not saying emotional, but the definition for depression in the Black community is usually equated to sadness or stress,
or weakness.
So when a man is weak, he's weak because he's dealing with so much. But when a woman is weak, or when a woman is depressed, why is she depressed? What's going on? That's just been my experience personally.
I find that, you know, when you say that, it's so misogynistic within itself. Because it's almost like, well, women don't go through as much as men, so why what would you have to be depressed about?
Exactly.
That is so insane to me.
But it's everyone's experience to be different. And it was almost like I wasn't allowed to be depressed. I wasn't allowed to experience these feelings, because I have to be the one who's strong. I have to hold it together.
So do you think that had your mother been more open about that conversation, do you think that a lot of things would have been different now in regards to the things that you're going through with your mental health?
Honestly, yes. I feel like I'd be more willing to reach out for help. And because sometimes I'll open up to a friend, because I can honestly say my friends are my strongest platform for help. Right. You know, like if I feel like, where in the past I felt suicidal, where I've attempted to take my life before in the past, I will reach out to a friend before family, before calling the police, before anything, to tell them that I'm having these feelings. And I want to say that if she would have opened that conversation with me to say, you know, I'm here, or you should call the police, it's always this shame attached to it. Right. For my family, and for, you know, in my culture, where if you're depressed, it's shameful. How dare you be depressed? How dare you ask for help? How dare you call the police when you feel like you're a threat to yourself? Right. You know, it's that thing where you want to ask for help, but you know you probably shouldn't. Like, that's how it is with me. It's like, I know I should ask for help sometimes, even if I'm not suicidal, but I'm just struggling. Right. But it's that fear that if I reach out, it'll be that shame attached to.
See, and I find it really interesting when you bring up the topic of friends, because I can say with my friends, for the most part, now I'll say this, I love them all as people. I love all of them, but the biggest thing that I notice with my friends is that a lot of times when it comes to, like, because I have battled with depression and whatnot. It's not anything like super serious, but I know it's there, and I've dealt with it here and there, at least for a good portion of my life. And it's a thing where I feel like a lot of times they don't necessarily understand it and they don't know what to say.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I feel like I just don't even say anything about it because it's not going to go anywhere.
I've had that before also. I've had it where I've had friends where they lived completely different lives. They couldn't understand why life experiences could help fuel depression and struggles that I had, and also that it could just be completely medical. It can just be an imbalance in the brain. It can just be something that I'm personally going through. You know, they can't understand it.
Yeah.
And on their behalf, you know, that's just something they personally couldn't understand. That's something that they've never experienced. They've never been through some of the stuff that I have.
Yeah.
So for them, it was less of a I don't understand, but more of I want to understand, but there's no way that I can. You know, like
Right.
they wanted to, they just couldn't. Like their life never went down the road that mine did. So
Now, Nick, like, do you feel like you can have that open conversation about mental health with your friends when it comes to at least like depression?
When it comes to my friends, yeah, I can, because I know with them, it's like, it's something that that's the one thing that they know they just can't battle on their own.
Right.
A lot of us, we can handle situations on our own. We can work through situations on our own, no matter what you throw at us. But it's what's in our head that is what's dangerous. That's what is, you know, that's what the real fight is. You know, it might not be what somebody else said, but it's what you're saying to yourself. That's the thing that, you know, we have to overcome, you know, when we deal with depression and things like that.
Right.
And I know that when my friends are going through depression, we act out. You know, we're very angry, or we don't feel like talking too much, or we just don't feel like being involved. So, you know, we tend to push away and push out those who are close, because we don't want them to, you know, be dragged down in our mess.
Okay. That's fair. So I do want to take a quick break. We're going to hear a word from our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to dive more into the conversation of mental health. We'll be right back. Are you looking for a new choice for healthier, more beautiful skin? Then check out Bath Savvy. Bath Savvy creates unique recipes for all natural body creams, oil blends, sugar scrubs, and more using premium pampering ingredients for the health and beauty of skin. Check them out at bathsavvy.com for all their bundle deals and updates for more products. All right, guys, and we are back with Pink Yoga. Now, a thing that I really wanted to bring up when we were talking about this conversation is the abundance of mental health and the talk of it when it comes to social media. And a thing that I've noticed that there's a very wide spectrum of people talking about mental health more. It's much more in the forefront, and I find that it's a really good thing. But there's a part of me that looks at it sometimes and is kind of like, are you really battling it? And that's the only reason why I say this. When I was in middle school and in, like, I want to say the early stages of high school, maybe like when I was a freshman, you know, a lot of times you would hear a lot of girls say, oh, I'm bisexual, you know, oh, you know, these guys are no good, I'm gonna just go get with a girl. You know, so they played with the whole thing of being bisexual, not because they really were, but because they sought attention. It was cool. You know, they were seeking attention. And what I'm noticing now is that there are a lot of people who are coming out and saying that they've battled depression, or they're still dealing with it, or they're bipolar, or in ADHD. You know, they have ADHD. You know, they have OCD, and I find like, because you don't want to say, oh no, you don't have it. But there's a part of me that's just kind of like, are you saying this because you genuinely have it, or are you saying this to get some attention?
Well, on that forefront, what I think is that a lot of it is that people can be more transparent on social media because you're not personally facing someone.
Right.
It's easier to speak your mind. It's easier to be open about these conversations and these topics on social media because, you know, you can reach someone who can understand you and who might have went through the same thing. And there's judgment, but there's usually an open community when it comes to depression on social media. So I think that it's just more people dealing with like mental health. Yeah. Not even depression, just mental health. Mental health can be like a spectrum of things. There's a lot of different things that classify as mental health. It can be just mentally taking care of yourself. Yeah,
anxiety.
Trying not to stress. Like a lot of millennials deal with this for multiple reasons. It's the crash of the job market. Like for one, we have to get so many degrees just to be certified to get a decent paying job. Yeah. As a millennial, we won't be able to buy a house because of the baby boomers. No offense, baby boomers.
Yeah. No, but all offense. Take responsibility.
We won't be able to do a lot of things. We're afraid to get credit cards to build our credit because we don't want to be like our parents. Yeah. You know, we don't want to go down the same road. It's so much stress on us. Like we have to be the most highly educated, you know, group just to survive, just to be okay. Yeah. We have to hustle, which not saying that other generations didn't, but it's a whole different type of hustle.
It is.
The game has changed. So with that being said, a lot of that brings stress, and it's also the stress of social media. It's the stress of seeing your colleagues and your friends and people you grew up with doing amazing things, traveling the world with that expensive car and that beautiful woman or man on their shoulder. Yeah. And you don't have that. It's a lot more for us, and a lot of this depression and anxiety comes from social media too.
And see, and I feel like the reason why I brought this up in the first place is only because I don't want it to become a thing where it cheapens the value or lessens the impact of the, you know, how important mental health is. You know what I mean?
I feel like it almost helps it because it's bringing more awareness to it. Like, for example, in a lot of cases where someone on social media might open up and talk about, you know, their experience being raped and how they don't want to go to the police. Right. But someone else has been through that and they can help them go to the police, help them, you know, get the help that they need. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of the times, a lot of people can't go to their family and talk to them about it. They'll be shut down. They'll be told to be quiet. They'll be told to, you know, hide it. So sometimes social media and reaching out to those people can help, even though a lot of people like to talk about like, oh, they're just thirsty for attention or they're just doing that. You never know what's really going on in someone's life. So
you're right.
My whole thing of it is just to go along with it and try and help someone, even if they're not really hurting. At least I tried. Right. At least I tried to reach out and help someone. You know?
That's fair. And
whenever I see a post where someone's saying they're depressed or, you know, they don't feel happy anymore, I try and always speak words of encouragement, and always tell them, you know, well, you should try this or you should try that. I literally go out my way to help people who are depressed or dealing with something, so much so that I sometimes put myself on the back burner. Right. But helping others helps me, and I've learned that over time.
That's very fair.
So I think it's different for every person, you know? Like, some people prefer to be private with what they're dealing with, and some people prefer to talk on social media. It all depends.
That's fair. I think that's very fair. So, when it comes to mental health, what do you think are some steps that people can take to be more aware about it? I mean, obviously for most part, people will say, you know, go to your local library or Google it or whatever, you know, just learn for yourself. But
talk about it,
you know. So because I feel like communication right now, where we are now, we need to communicate.
Like if I talk about it and there's someone who went through something similar, they'll be able to give me advice. Like I have a friend who told me positive affirmations every morning to yourself. Yeah. I feel so stupid talking to myself every morning, but I noticed that it's helped me.
I can attest to that, because for me, when I was going through a really, really low moment with my mental health, I watched, and it was funny enough, I was watching Bad Girls Club. And it was and it was a season when they first started having the life coach. And she brought all of the girls into the bathroom, like one by one, and she told them to on one side of the mirror write every positive thing about you. Just nothing but no, I'm sorry. She started off with saying write nothing but negative words about you, like any names that people have called you, whatever. Woo, woo. And then she had them write all of the positive names about them on the same, on another side of the mirror, what have you. And she said that basically each time you look at that mirror, wipe off one of the negative words and add on something else that's positive, until you have a point where there's nothing positive there. There's nothing but positive things there, And I feel like that's something that mental health is not just going to go away. It's not something that you're fine today and you look up tomorrow and then you never have to deal with it ever again.
But it's something you can make easier to deal with.
Exactly. And it's something that you can work towards bettering,
Just like, I come in and right off the bat, I compliment you and Nick. I tell Nick about how proud I am of him. I tell him how good he's doing. I ain't known this man longer than a couple of months. But every time I see him, I speak positivity into him, or at least I try.
Yes.
Same with you.
Yeah.
I'll meet someone random. I'm like, you look very pretty today, and I just want you to know you're an amazing person.
And likewise, because I feel like, and I think that we need to have more of that. We need people to be more positive. We need to have that positive reinforcement out there. Because honestly, misery breeds. Like, misery, it's in the air. When you have that negativity around you, it does nothing good for you. It does nothing good for you. It poisons you and it festers inside of you, because I'm sorry. And they say it all the time. You can read thousands of positive messages about you, but that one negative one, the one that points out your faults, it always sticks with you.
And here's another question also. What would you say to someone younger than you, or even a younger version of you, to help deal with some of the issues that that you're dealing with now?
If anybody says anything negative about you, call them a fat ass Kelly Price. I'm serious.
So stupid, you idiot. So for me, if I was speaking to my younger self, I wouldn't tell my younger self anything.
Okay.
Only because I wouldn't be the person I am today if I didn't go through all the things that I went through, and if I didn't feel the things that I felt. But if I was talking to someone else, to another younger person, I would tell them that, there are going to be some challenges in your life that are not going to be happy. You're going to go through some things that are going to make you feel upset. You're going to feel less than at times. You're going to feel like you don't belong. But, you will be okay. And another thing, too, is because speaking of the whole it gets better movement,
Yeah.
I partially agree with it, but for the most part, I disagree, because it's not just gonna get better one day. You have to work at making it better. You have to make it better for yourself.
Yeah, that little bit of realism.
Yeah, and it's honest. I didn't wake up one day and everything was just sunflowers and ladybugs. I did that didn't happen. I did things to make it happen for me. Out of high school, I went and got myself a job. When I started making money, it made me feel better about myself. It made me feel like I was productive, because my happiness comes from me being productive, and it comes from me feeling like I'm giving back to the world in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's doing something nice for somebody, working hard on something and reaping the benefits of it, or just treating myself. And for a younger person, I would tell them that don't wait for it to get better, because it never will.
Right.
You have to. Yeah, you can pray. Don't get me wrong, you can pray, but you still have to get up and make that first step for that prayer to work.
You can't make change on your knees. You got to get up and do it.
Exactly. You got to pull up, girl, boy, pull up them socks.
I know for me, the biggest thing that I battle with when it comes to, figuring out myself is I want to feel like I'm valuable. Because I know for me, I was always, taught on, be valuable, have something to give to someone else.
Yeah.
And whenever I feel like I can't be valuable or I can't do something to help someone or, take that step forward to be something for somebody, that's what makes me feel terrible.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I think another thing for us, for millennials, is that a part of our mental plummet is that we don't know who we are and who we're supposed to be yet. And I feel like with past generations, it's always been clear what exactly there was for them to do.
Right.
It was always set there. And for us, it's more of a journey because we have to find new things that's out there for us,
Right.
It's not the same like, I get out of school, I go straight to the plant and I'll be able to support my family off of working at Chrysler. It's a little bit more complicated.
You know what? And that's the biggest thing that I can't wrap my head around when it comes to old folk. You need to understand that this is a new time and a new deal. And when you sit here and you badmouth and criticize people who live in a new generation, you have to understand we are making the best of what we've got right now.
Exactly.
We're making the best of what we got right now. We are essentially we're learning a new way of life.
And we're not complaining. We're not
complaining about it. But when you continuously berate and belittle us for something you caused, let's be quite honest, this was a baby boomer thing, and baby boomers are the ones who will speak about it the most because they feel like, every generation under us is ungrateful and this
useless.
That and right, useless. But let's be quite honest, our generation is the one who's living in the technological age. We're living in the technological age, so things are becoming harder. It's becoming harder because it's not face to face. This is, okay, you're on Indeed, okay, whatever. You may be picked, woo woo, okay, let's pray about it. This is not I'm putting my foot down and I'm making my steps. So it's become a thing of I have to do what I've got to do with what I've got in front of me. Just
right.
Because it's made from technology does not make things easier.
That's true. That is
Sick
true.
of y'all old folk.
Hush.
Peanut bags.
Listen, I still respect my old folks, sir.
Porsche, that's all your fault. You couldn't got him started.
I mean, but it's the truth. Like,
Give me the mic back.
No. No, he's been detained.
It's the truth. Like, that's just how I feel. That's how I feel like it is. I feel like there's expectations I just cannot reach in the time that you reach them.
Exactly.
And it's just that things are different, and it's also that pressure of having to do it in the time that you've done it that is stressing me out too, because if I don't, I'm looked down upon.
What I saw that was really interesting, it was a post on Facebook yesterday about how basically from like 1980 up until now, you could have somebody who works the same job and still makes the same rate of pay. But back then, a thing of bread was like 30 cents, and now it's $1.35.
Yeah.
And it's like we're living in a world where everything is more expensive, but we're still getting paid the same wages.
Exactly. That's another thing too, and that's another reason why we're so stressed. We're so frustrated. We don't know what to do.
Yeah. So like back then, you could have went to not in the 80s, right? But like back then, you could have went to college like and paid like $100 and something for your college course, whereas now it's ridiculously expensive to play with it.
Right now, car insurance is extremely expensive. car insurance is extremely expensive. Back in the day, car insurance wasn't even required. It wasn't even a requirement. So now that it's a requirement and now that it's extra expensive, and yes, I understand minimum wage goes up, but when minimum wage goes up, so does everything else.
Yeah.
Everything else.
So can y'all stop crying at McDonald's saying y'all deserve $50 an hour with that horrible ass, fuck ass service y'all got?
Because y'all making it harder for us who doing other jobs.
Yeah.
Like, please calm down, McDonald's.
And then now you need a degree for everything.
You need a degree to be a manager.
You need a degree for everything. I can't just say, here's my high school diploma. Okay, what is this?
Where's your experience? Where's your degree? And here's another thing. Even if you get the degree, you need experience.
Yeah.
In everything you do.
Everything.
Period. Because this is not some, okay, yeah, I'm going to go work a physical labor job. Okay, no. You know, if you want to move up in any kind of avenue, anywhere, in any job, you need to have something to be able to say, hey, this is why I deserve to be here. Not some, okay, here's my high school diploma, my resume. All right, I want a job where I can go retire in 40 years. So
I felt like an old lady. But no, seriously, you guys, there's just so many stressors that can apply to someone. And I'm not saying that the older generation didn't have these stresses or these stressors. We're just saying that for our mental health, we need acknowledgement.
We do.
Of what we're going through. Don't belittle our hustle. Don't belittle our strive. Don't belittle our accomplishments.
Yes.
And what we're doing. And don't make us feel like our feelings don't matter. Because that's dangerous. That's scarring. Because us as young adults, because that's what we are. Well, we're young adults. We still rely on our parents heavily. Especially right now. We still rely on our parents because we're still trying to figure out everything.
Exactly.
Yes, we're adults right now, but we're just now getting to the point where this is the point where we should have graduated from college and we're trying to get our lives together. And even though we might not be college grads, we're still trying to get our lives together. And that's a whole nother journey.
And it's just not fair to give us a hard time the entire way when we're trying to get everything together.
Exactly.
It's not fair. But we're going to take another short break and hear another word from our sponsors. And when we come back, just a little bit more about mental health. We'll be back. Okay, guys. Now it's time to talk about one of my favorite brands, Palm Treat. Palm Treat has created a body of work that is a biting reflection of modern culture. Themes of nihilism, dark humor, and anti-consumerism are woven throughout the pieces of digital designs, clothing, posters, books, skate decks, pins, patches, and more that the artists of Palm Treat have created. Make sure to visit palmtreat.design to indulge in the relationship between artistic expression and popular cartoons today. And we are back. Now, guys, we will be closing out the show soon, but I want everyone here, if you have any closing statements, please give them now.
I'll go first. My closing statement would be try and stay positive when dealing with yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be gentle to yourself. But in that same aspect, be real with yourself. Don't make yourself believe in the impossible. Be real. But like I said, be gentle and make sure you take care of yourself. Just like you would take care of your body, your sexual health. You know, you'll clean your body. Make sure you clean your mind. Make sure you take care of it. Make sure you meditate. Make sure you go see a psychiatrist or a doctor and get those pills that you might need to help balance yourself out. Make sure that you're talking to someone. Make sure you call 911 if you feel like your life isn't worth anything anymore and it should be over. And I can't stress that enough. It's the suicide hotline that you can call, or call 911. Get yourself to a hospital. Don't hesitate when it comes to yourself, because you are worth something. Niklaus?
What I have to say is that though everything may suck right now as it's happening, at the end of the day, you will get there. You will definitely, you will definitely prevail from this situation, because through stress does come success. It does, because even diamonds are put under a lot of stress, and then when they're done, they're diamonds. It happens. Things are not always going to be, peachy, but after everything has happened, after everything is said and done, you will come out of this situation a whole lot better than when you went in. Promise you.
And as for me, just going off what Porsche said, more than anything, your mental health is the most important thing that you have. You must take care of it and whatnot. Now, for those of you out there who, may feel like, their life isn't going as good as it could, or they feel like they have nowhere else to go, make sure you call the suicide prevention line. And I have the number, so
yes,
if any of you are going through anything like that, please call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255. Please give them a call. If you can't reach them, if you for some reason can't get the number, just like Portia said, call 911, because your life means everything. Your life means something, and you have so much to go for and so much to grow from it. Don't give up on it. But that's going to be all we have today. Thank you guys so much for listening to our show. And that's all we have for today. Portia, thank you so much for introducing yourself to our audience.
thank you for having me.
She will be back in the future, guys, so please stay tuned. And that's it. This is all for Pink Yoga. Pink Yoga out.